I did say that I was going to come back with an MMA story and whatnot. I figured, you know what? I think this story is a little more interesting considering there's a deadline behind it. I'm talking about the Tyson Fury and the Anthony Joshua fight, okay? Which, by the way, is the heavyweights version of Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. Although I will contest that during that time, Floyd Mayweather was a world champion, and so is Manny Pacquiao. These two, on the other hand, these guys are former world champions, both beaten by Alexander Usyk. And here's the interesting thing about Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, right? Anthony Joshua is one of those guys that is very what's the word I'm looking for here? Very humble in his approach. Like, for example, he knew that he needed to change camps. He knew that staying in England or staying with whoever the trainer was that he was with was not sufficient enough, right? He knew he had to try something different. Now, what difference is that he had to make? It was a camp, by the way, a camp that beat him. If you really think about it, it is the camp of Alexander Usyk that beat Anthony Joshua. And Anthony Joshua goes out of his way. He goes out of his way to go and train with him. What does that tell you about Anthony Joshua? I'll tell you what that tells me. Okay? That is a man of humility. A man that knows this guy has my number. Okay? And I'm talking about Alexander Usyk. He knows that Alexander Usyk has his number. But for whatever reason, he decides, and I think it's brilliant, he decides to go to the guy that literally figured him out. Doubleheader. Brother, you know, I try to make these every day. Obviously, that's not always possible. Doing one a day sometimes isn't always possible. You know, I have a hard... Oh, oops. It's a bit of a loud commercial there. I have a hard time in and of itself trying to make videos. You know, I just prefer live streams, right? Because I like going off the cuff. I knew the idea that I have in my mind. I knew what topic I want to talk about. And I just wanted to kind of get it right then and there, right? So that's why I kind of prefer live streams over, let's say, making videos. If there is a particular clip, right? Because I do try to clip up a lot of these things, or at least try to really talk in clip form, right? In a way where, you know, I can kind of like create like a 5-minute segment. Like, obviously, I'll have like a 5-minute segment of, you know, perhaps maybe talking about NASCAR. A 5-minute segment talking about the latest UFC fight, if there is some sort of you know, reason for it, right? Like the Sean Strickland one that I did when he won against comes out. That was the latest video that I have, right? At least in the video section. But, you know, video-wise, all of my videos nowadays are just live stream. Victory says live stream is where it's at these days. It's taking over. Yes. So even with the bigger live stream platforms like homeboy Dean the Great and Adrian Broner, even with them, they have a clip farming method, right? Like they know that these certain segments are going to hit. They know that these are going to be the attention seeking. This particular segment right here is where we're going to create a video out of it. But yes, because, you know, like all streaming, it's all very long, right? So for me, I have very two extremes of the type of longs that I do. Right? Sometimes I'll do a 28-minute live stream. Right? Nowadays, that's chump change, you know, time that you put in. Sometimes I'll do 40 minutes. That's about decent. An hour. That's about an average that most streamers should do. And then, obviously, with the Fight Companions, we go as long as hours. Right? So it all varies, right? So I have different time variations of, yeah, so Broner is going to rehab. So what about that, right? Him going to rehab, are they going to film that, right? This is the thing about streaming. Now, There's what they do is IRL streaming. I guess there's some sort of bad stigma behind it because of the way that you have to um pretty much like act up a certain way. Like people know Dean Great as being an antagonizer, right? So being an antagonizer, you got to do antagonizing things, and unfortunately, that is what his stream is about. Like I never put myself in that box, although I get myself in situations here. Obviously, you've seen in saunas. You guys seen me, get in street confrontations while the live stream is going on. This is just what it is, right? It's not something that I try to make a play out of or try to create a kayfabe out of, right? But rather just a genuine, real interaction that would have happened anyway had you guys not been there. Tyler Betts says 24-hour political stream incoming, inshallah. Florin says, say what Wahamdu, yeah, I don't know what's up with the spamming, but all right, we're putting you on timeout. Sorry, we got to send you to the Shadow Realm. We're not with the with all of that. So, on any regard, so okay, here's a controversy that is going on with this particular topic that we're talking about, right? With Tyson Fury and AJ and Anthony Joshua. So the main thing is that they want to bring this fight to England, right? And it makes sense. They are both English fighters, right? The majority of their fan base is British. But why can't they hold the fight in England? This is why. Americans are going to only see this fight in the morning time or very early afternoon if they're going to put it in the UK. Because what's prime time Saturday night for the UK is Saturday morning for the United States. And they want American fans to watch this fight in huge numbers because let's be honest about this, England is a great fan base for fighting sports, very enthusiastic in the way that they cheer for their fighters, also just cheer for fighting, period, right? Whenever there is a British boxing event or maybe even an MMA event, right, ranging from Cage Warriors all the way to UFC's London Fight Night, man, the fans show up, bro. The English fans show up. They are great fans. They know how to support. And you know what? I think there's a psychological reason behind that in ways of what makes them better fans than, let's say, the United States, right? Here's the thing about this, right? In the United States, it is rather seen as gay, unmasculine for you to show support to another man, even though this is a culture that has this insane obsession with team sports and, quite frankly, athlete worshiping. Right? As crazy as those two contrastings are, yes, that's just the attitude that many Americans have, and in particular, American fight sports fans. Okay, their attitude is we're not going to support anybody. We're too hard to be supporting anybody, and these are the reasons why, right? So with the UK fans, they will literally travel from one side of the world to the other to see their fighters compete. Do you think that there are a group of Americans out there that will go out of their way to, let's say, go see Clarissa Shields travel to the UK? Huh? What do you think? The answer is no. Do you think there would be American fans that would travel to go see John Jones to fight Tom Aspinall in the UK? The only people that would do that are the people that are in his team. Okay, and of course, that contingency of also hardcore fight fans. There's also that, right? Hardcore fight fans that are from the United States and appreciate greatness in John Jones, right? But very few. That's just in the UK though. They're going to turn up. All right, they're going to sing "Sweet Caroline" or this and that. You put this show in the United States, it's not going to be the same. But here's the thing, right? The Saudis right now are thinking about their bottom dollar. See, you guys are used to the days when the Saudis were paying everybody. Okay, they were paying everybody to, get these shows popping. All right. Now they're kind of slowing down on that a little bit. They're saying to themselves, you know what? We need to get some ROIs out of this because you guys just think that the Saudis are spending frivolously their budget and they don't really care about ROIs or anything like that. Well, you know what? That's not the case, okay? Because right now, if you want to talk Middle Eastern politics and how this ties into, right, the Saudis right now are facing a lot of devastating losses I'm not saying like completely, but you take losses in wars, okay? And there's a lot of fighting going on between Iran, between Hezbollah, between Saudi forces, between Turkey. Although Israel obviously is in there too. The U.S. is, conducting themselves in covert operations. So there's all these things going on, right? Bottom line, they want some money back, okay? Oil is becoming a very scarce product in Saudi Arabia. And in fact, there's a good chance that in some later years, they're not going to have oil any longer. So they have to depend upon having a long term strategy with this boxing stuff and then these other entertainment aspects that they add into their mix. Okay, so yeah, I'm just putting this on the thumbnail. The fight will not be in the UK. Okay. Terry Badu says oil doesn't run out for 50 years in Saudi Arabia. Sure. And there could be some accuracies in the number that you just pointed out right now, or maybe a little more, a little less. Either way, they still have to plan out, right? You also have to understand, right? These other cultures. I know Saudi Arabia is a very young country. Realistically, as a state, Saudi Arabia is no older than, let's say, maybe 50 years old, right? They are probably right around the same age as Israel. They're not that old. However, However, one thing you got to understand is that they are an older civilization. So they think in long term. Okay, their leadership thinks in long term. The royal family of Saudi Arabia and their Bedouin background, they think in a very long term, and they know that somewhere down the line they have to replace oil, right? Whether that would be through the form of entertainment or whether that would be through the form of tourism. Now, Saudi Arabia already has one form of tourism, and that is Mecca, Saudi Arabia, right? Obviously, the pilgrimage for Muslims around the world to attend, that is a very lucrative business for the Saudis and the regime. Um, However, they want to double that by adding, let's say, tourism, right? Adding tourism through sports, tourism through the UFC, through boxing, F1 Formula Racing, even soccer. Obviously, they have their own soccer league and recruited soccer players from around the world, such as Ronaldo. Tried to get Messi in there. Obviously, that was not going to be an easy transition for Messi to make, but they did get Ronaldo nonetheless, and they're going to continue to try and get other players. And they also own teams in the Premier League. Obviously, the Emiratis own Manchester City. The Saudis own Newcastle FC, right? So they have their foot in football, as they call it in Europe, right? Obviously, the Americans, we call it soccer here. But nonetheless, they are trying in their best to create different funds and different ways of revenues and also different economic um, strategies for their country in the future. It's not like in America, they don't think ahead, right? That is why there's a lot of people that sort of offset their responsibility. What is the word? that I'm looking for in that. I believe it's called diffusion of responsibility, right? An example of diffusion of responsibility is, let's say you see somebody littering a piece of can on the floor, right? Um, the proper thing to do is at least pick it up and throw it in the garbage, right? But in your mind, because there is certain aspects in society that we can play to in diffusion of responsibility, you're not going to think about picking up that piece of trash that could be detrimental to the health of nature, at least in long term, right? If you do it enough, I don't think littering once or twice will affect you that much. But nonetheless, there is that, right? We have people that clean it up. That's ultimately the meaning of diffusion of responsibility. So that's what it really comes down to, right? The way that they practice their government here is that, right? Oh, I'm just going to act in terms of what is going to get me reelected. He says, leave it for the convicts. Just kidding, LOL. What do you mean by that when you say leave it to the convicts? What did you mean by that? If you can give me some context behind what you mean. So he says, picking up oh, okay, yes, yes, because there are those programs where, right, okay, where there's sometimes the sheriffs bring out the inmates to, pick up trash in the middle of it. Okay, that's what you mean. Got it. Okay, so, all right, that's a good, that is a good uh, thumbnail right there. Right, blue background, right, with the British flag. Deadline: the fight will not be in the UK. That is, he says, just being stupid. Of course, man, no problem. But you got to understand. Listen, sarcasm is not my strongest suits. Although I'm very quick-witted when it comes to verbal exchanges. I have that weak spot. Okay, so understand this, right? Um, America is still um, a big market for combat sports. All right. What you get out of the UK. So this is the long-term strategy that I think the investors are thinking about with this fight, right? What you're getting out of the UK is gate numbers. Okay. Like, for example, if you have this fight in Wembley Stadium, you're going to break gate numbers, right? What is the highest attendance that they have in Wembley Stadium or Tottenham Stadium? Maybe around 80,000, something like that, with Carl Froch, with Anthony Joshua a few times. He's had stadium fights. In the latter stages of Tyson Fury career, he started getting stadium fights, and that was very lucrative for him, right? We're talking about 70,000 fans, right? This is what they bring. But here's the thing, right? Live crowds are great, but if you're a fight promotion, whether in boxing or MMA, your biggest revenue is in the TV and live TV at that. So if we have this fight done in America, right? I'm not talking for myself, right? I'm talking as if this is trying to explain to you what is in the mind of Turkey El-Sheikh and the investors that are involved, right? They're thinking primetime America, right? Everybody is home because you're really going to alienate a live portion of the American audience in a morning British time. Okay. He says, I thought Dana said it was at MSG. So here's the thing, right? I'm glad that you brought that up because they may just revolt. You imagine Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury are like, what the F? We wanted this in the United Kingdom. What's going on? This fight should be in the United Kingdom. These are two British fighters, right? And we're going to do it in MSG. Of course, Dana White's concept, as you know, he says, well, what's great about the UFC, guys, is we can take a guy from Boston, or actually we can take a venue in Boston, have a guy from Croatia, fight a guy in Brazil, and it would do just great numbers, like as if it was Arturo Gatti that was fighting in Boston. Right, that is Dana White's whole entire concept. Victory says they have a big fan base in the UK. Yeah, they do, but Americans are going to pull up for Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Americans are going to pull up for that, right? If this was Callum Smith versus name, a pretty known British boxer, Anthony Yard or something like that, right? This is, these guys are world level, but these guys are domestic level famous, right? When it comes to the boxing scene. Victory says Brooke Zane must be excited for this. Oh man. But it's not going to be in the UK. There's a good chance it could be in LA. Um, they're really pushing LA now, right? There was a point where California, LA venues were a problem, especially in music, right? Obviously, you've seen all these artists that get gunned down, like the Draco, the Ruler situation, right? It's very difficult to book anything in California because of that. Same thing with MMA, but now there's a resurgence in, I don't know what it is, maybe California um, economy or of some sort, but I don't know, man. Speaking of California economy, I talked to many of the people that were there that night for the UFC Sacramento card, and I got to tell you, it's a crying shame the place was not packed the way that people thought it was. The crowd compensated, but there were a lot of empty seats in that crowd. Okay, just from some of the people that vouched for what had happened on that day. So um, yeah, guys, most Americans in Saturday morning are not going to pull up for that. As a matter of fact, look, I'm going to pull up an Eddie Hearn interview. Okay, that sort of inspired me to do this live stream right now, titling it as such. Right. So Eddie Hearn latest interview. Let's see here. Okay, so let's see what was okay, here we go. All right, this was from the stomping grounds. This should be a good explanation for some things right here.
Okay. Osmosis for the stomping ground available on the zone. Our European champion. Look good tonight. Yeah, a lot of respect to it. 24 years of age, British, Commonwealth, and European champion, and done it at cancer. Morello's he's definitely not a world class fighter. He's a real solid European level guy. And George beat him with ease, and he's ready for what's next. Whether that's a shot at the world middleweight title or one more in between, but it won't be any more than one. He's done brilliantly well, and we're very proud of him. I think he could fight Denzel Bentley before the end of the year. I think it's a great fight. I was having a bit of banter with Denzel tonight. Listen, he wants to get paid. He's won the middleweight title. Good luck to him. But that's a big fight. You've got a world middleweight champion from London. You've got a British and Commonwealth and European champion from London.
Okay.
Why not?
MMA fighters and kickboxers beat heavyweight champs. They suck.
Fight next. I'd be happy for him to take that. If not,
considering that was one of the latter stages of Usyk's career, right? And Verhoeven picked them off at the right time.
I want to see him fight for the world middleweight title. I know Liam Smith's fighting in Finland. My kind of,
all right.
I say understanding terms that he's fighting in Finland and something. Just on the rest of the undercard, I know we haven't got too long, but enough a really good show. And fight that, I said to Gordon's team, and I said honestly, I thought Laley edged the fight, but a draw, like what?
It says almost beat them. Yeah, I'm trying to get to where Eddie is going to talk about.
You've got Rafferty, Lillard's 24. People wear when they're on the commentary. Yeah, okay. Loafers. Yeah, I mean, they are. Yeah. The back of my feet. Yeah, it's worth it. On the Fury AJ stuff, so I'm just going to say.
All right, here we go. Here we go, right here on the Fury AJ stuff. Let's get to it right here. Okay, I'm going to face Eddie Hearn towards you guys, just so you can look into his eyes and understand where he's coming from when he's trying to convey this message. So here we go, Eddie Hearn.
A few people said this, but maybe some of the public might say this if they're not too ingrained in the story. If someone comes to you and says, just do it if it happens in New York, Ed. What's your response? That's like, yeah, but it's like, my response to that is put yourself in the position, and I just said to someone, and I'll say it to you as well, Oscar, right? You've worked all your life for this massive moment, right? It's the biggest moment of your career. You've signed a contract with the money confirmed, the location of the job, and the work that you have to do around that job.
All right. So far, what I'm gathering out of Eddie Hearn right now is that he's saying they already had a predisposition plan to where they were going to have these fights. Okay, which obviously, to the request of all the British men involved, they probably wanted it in the UK. But being that Saudi Arabia is a neutral country in this regard, well, you know what? I'm not going to say Saudi Arabia is a neutral country. You know what? They are bigger allies to the United States than Great Britain. I think that's fair to say, right? I think they trust America more than they trust Great Britain because here's the thing. The Saudi royal forces are not buying, British-made weapons. They're not buying L-85s, right? The Saudi military is strapped up with American weapons, okay? American AR assault rifles, M16 A2 service rifles, M4s for their special forces, just like their guys, very identical, right? All the special forces in the Saudi Royal Marines are no different than the special forces that you have. I mean, with slight differences. Obviously, the U.S. is not going to give them everything, but formidable to that reality, right? So, in that regard, they're going to work more for the interest towards the United States and what is good for the United States and its economy. Because who is Trump buying, or rather, who's buying all the guns from the United States? Not Britain. It's Saudi Arabia. So he says corruption. He says this guy is destroying Tom Aspinall's career. You know what? I think it's just going to cause a lot of hindrance, right? Like, because being a manager in the UFC, you're a broker. You're not a negotiator. That's what a lot of people get it twisted, right? When you're a manager for a UFC fighter, you are a broker, not a manager. A manager is somebody that negotiates. A broker is somebody that basically is working favors for the company. Ali Abdelaziz, he works favors for the company. Abraham Kawa works for the company. Audi Atir, all these sports agents and all these MMA managers. And now you got Eddie Hearn looking over the contract of Aspinall and Ian Gary, and could potentially ruin their chances of, I don't know, rematches, re-signing, of leverage in their contract negotiations. I mean, he's an absolute hindrance, I will say. But what Eddie can offer is shedding a spotlight on them outside of the octagon, which, I mean, can build their profile. But having beef with the UFC is not the way to go. I would imagine he would try to create some sort of neutral party ground to mitigate whatever issues him and Dana or the company have going on. Or maybe there's none at all. Maybe this is all just banter and for the sake of entertainment, which, by the way, Eddie even claims and understands that it's building his profile to a positive spin.
Right? Life is sweet. Life is complete. You can't wait. And all of a sudden, someone comes along and says, by the way, you're now going to get less money. We're going to do it somewhere where we didn't agree to, but don't worry about it. And here's a load of other stuff that you've got to do as well. Like, what type of person would just go, all right then? Like,
okay, the less money part, I'm curious about that, right? Why would they make less money if they were to fight in the United States? My thing is, I think the reason why they would make less money fighting in the United States is because the gate will not be as high as a stadium fight. I mean, if you're going to do it in an arena, I mean, maybe they'll do it in Dallas Cowboys Stadium, or maybe Jets or Giants Stadium in the Meadowlands. That could be a possibility, but they have to do it in a football stadium that carries that much people.
and by the way, this ain't any type of person. This is Anthony Joshua. So for anyone. I mean, Cafe, I just can't believe what he's doing. Oh, just sign it. It's like, no, not just sign it. We don't break contracts. A contract is not there to be broken. When we agree.
Scandibigo says Dana hates Ian now. Attacked him for a silly reason. There you go. There you go. Okay, the pettiness has begun. That's what I was saying. I noticed that after UFC 330, I was like, okay, he's kind of slagging him off here. This is interesting. What's with the slag off here? What's going on? We know. We now know why. We now know why. You listen. These guys can pretend to be professional all they want. Dana doesn't pretend to be professional at all. The guy doesn't wear suits. Okay, he'll wear suits once in a while, but he's not a suit and tie kind of guy. Button up, typical corporate, stooge, right? Although obviously you would be a corporate stooge if you were to talk on his behalf, but him himself, he's anything but the polished, stereotypical corporate guy, as as you know it to be.
And we shake hands and we look each other in the eye. We deliver. And that's all that we're asking in return. And I'll say it before, I'll say it again. Turkey Al-Sheikh has never, ever told me something that he hasn't delivered, apart from this time.
Guys, if you're still balding.
Okay, so that's really interesting, right? He said that there was never a time Turkey sideswiped him until now. Now, you got to ask yourself, what is his reason? Now, look, you got to understand something, right? A lot of channels are going to try and pretend to know what is going on, or, me as well, right? My only speculation is that they want the most money as much as possible and are willing to undercut anybody else that is involved, right? So when Eddie Hearn said that, hey, if we're going to do this fight in America, we're going to make less money for it. Why would they make less money for it? And why would the Saudis want to put them in a position that they make less money? Maybe because they want the majority of the revenue that they're going to make in America, as opposed to them having to share their earnings from the fight, being that it was originally set in England, right? Maybe, yeah. So once again, this is just all speculation, and there are plausible reasons to believe that to be in that direction, but one never knows. Once again, just to keep in mind, for all journalistic integrity's sake, that it is nothing but mere speculation.
At Wembley, told me something that he hasn't delivered, apart from this time. And I'm just hoping that he wakes up and goes, do you know what? Let's do it at Wembley. Because you imagine it. Imagine now this got announced for Wembley. The country would erupt. It would be the biggest thing this country's ever seen. And I'm sorry, but do you think that the people of the United States, when this fight gets announced at Wembley, MFG is going to turn around and go, oh, thank you for bringing this fight? They're not. I'm sure many are going to go. They've got plenty on.
You know what? Listen, Eddie Hearn is dead on about this. Hear what he had to say again. You got to hear this again. This is dead on right here. Dead on.
When this fight gets announced at Wembley, MFG is going to turn around and go, oh, thank you for bringing this fight. They're not. I'm sure many are going to go. They've got plenty on their plate.
You asked an American.
Well, but they're not going to go, oh, thank you so much for bringing this fight to our country.
He's absolutely right about that. None of you really care, okay? None of you really care. No, be honest, okay? This fight gets announced. Are you excited, and are you going to care? The truth is, no. You will not care, okay? Not the way that they care, okay? Because they have a certain emotional attachment to Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury over the years. Tyson Fury has been an inspiration to many people who are, let's just be honest about it, drunk, drug addict British people who think that they can drug their way into life, drink their way into life, and then come into Monday in whatever profession they do and kick ass, right? Well, there's a reason why their society is failing. There's a reason why British society is failing. Okay, there's a reason why. All right, that is why. Okay, but they relate to people like that. Anthony Joshua, they love to hate Anthony Joshua because he does all the right things. He says all the right things. and it annoys them because there's a part of, let me just say, man, a lot of British people I think have been abused as kids, and I don't mean in in a Sean Strickland matter or in a Pete Diddy matter. I mean in a way where they've been hit, smacked up, or whatever. It's just how a lot of people were raised in the Gen X days, in the yeah, that's just how they were raised back in the day. So there's a lot of trauma to go with that, right? So when they hear somebody that talks positive or speaks positivity into the world, this annoys many people, right? This really puts people on edge. It makes them, somewhat nervous. It makes them somewhat skeptical about the person, right? Just all of these, weird things that pop up into people's heads when they run across somebody who is as positive as Anthony Joshua, right? The skepticism, the cynicism, and then on top of that, just the jaded attitude of the world. This is the majority of the United Kingdom.
Free British, they go, thank you, yes, we got it. Something to oh, mate, yeah, and then you get people, there's people now on TalkSport going, yeah, but actually, if you think about it, it's 100,000 at Wembley and it's 20,000 at MSG. So it's only really 80,000 people missing out. It's not about that. It's about the hype around the country. It's about what people spend to come into London. It's about amateur boxing clubs. It's about so many different things and how the sport would benefit if it was here in Great Britain. And that's why Anthony Joshua, by the way, if they do turn around and say, okay, do it in the UK, I wouldn't mind a pat on the back. Thank Anthony Joshua. He's the guy that asked me to put that in the contract. He's the guy that said, when people have been phoning him round the back, yeah, during this process, going, come on, mate, let's just do it, please. He's like, no, I want this fight in the UK. And he stood firm and strong. And, we hope that people can come to their senses.
Just to be clear, I know it's not the case, but for the sake of this interview, Ronnie O'Sullivan is not the hold-up.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's been a lot of dirty antics in this. Let's just,
which I know you do enjoy to an extent.
Well, not like that, because listen, I don't mind some banter. I don't mind we had a debate and we were, but not. I don't like plot, and I don't like fuckery like that. It's not, it's not something that we do.
Code in there.
Yeah, listen, some people behave differently, and but listen, we all we want is what we agree to. That's it.
Yeah. Just in terms of the Saudi money, I know, just going off a couple of interviews done with Coogan, kind of the way I interpret it was that obviously
workplace retaliation happens when an employer fires, demotes, refuses to promote, or other.
Most people are saying that there are outstanding payments, right? Be Anthony Joshua for Christian Pringle or for other matchroom sporting events. Is there some concern from you? Because it has always been the narrative that the Saudis pay more than anyone else. That's why things will be going to Riyadh. And yet you're now in a position where you're saying Anthony Joshua has not been paid for Christian Pringle.
No. All I'll say is that Turkey Sheikh has never not delivered on his promises. That's it. And I don't, I know this is the first instance where that might happen, but we're very happy with our relationship with Saudi and the partners that they are. What the information that was leaked in that email was leaked by their partners. So I'm not going down that road of talking about my contracts and the issues that we have, because that will be resolved behind closed doors, not publicly. And they chose to play that out in public.
Has your relationship changed beyond this? Beyond Fury Joshua?
I've always said to you, we are Metro, right? We are, in my opinion, number one with or without Saudi Arabia and Turkey Sheikh. But we love working with them. And we've had a brilliant time. It's really benefited our fighters. If it ends tomorrow, I'll be disappointed. But
all right, I think that's a very reasonable but also very politically correct statement that Eddie Hearn made, right? So what does he mean by when he says, we are number one with or without Saudi, right? Is he right? Yes. The Saudis can come up with their own league if they want, but by the end of the day, it is Matchroom that has all the guys contracted, and that's really just what it is, right? They are the ones that has them contracted, and nothing more, nothing less. The Saudis, on the other hand, they like working with them, right? Because it's a sure deal. They've worked years and years of getting their name out there and the type of people that they, put out there. But they also know that they can really destroy them if they wanted. Okay, because they're dealing with an oligarch, right? They're not dealing with a rival promotion or a friendly promotion or any other fight promotion. They are dealing with an oligarch government system. Okay, that is a different level of game that you are dealing with, right? With people like that. So, all right, let's continue on with what Eddie Hearn is talking about here because he's dropping some gems in this interview right here.
But it ends tomorrow and we carry on. We do exactly the same as we've been doing for the last 40 years. But, you know, we know how we operate and we can always hold our head up high in that respect.
I just listened to it at a press conference and he said, if it's in New York, I will feel different, right? And I know everyone will feel the same. There's no doubt that we get to the week and we're all excited. But do you genuinely think you will be in New York and you might say after the press conference, sit back in your hotel and go, this is a bit of a fuck up? Because it's in New York.
It's not a fight. The fight will be big, right? And it'll, you know, New York's the entertainment capital of the world.
So let me translate this, right? What Eddie Hearn is saying is that, hey, look, the fight doesn't have to be in the UK. It's great if it's in the UK,
but it just won't be the same.
But it just won't be the same. That's what it is, right? They're okay with it. Right now, they're bargaining, right? Look, you want everything to be on your side, okay? Take, for example, right? When I was in a car business, we sold this Cadillac to a gentleman, right? Lo and behold, we found out in the Cadillac that it had a stereo system that was very expensive. The stereo system was so expensive that it overrode the price of the Cadillac. Okay? Meaning that if we were going to sell this Cadillac to this gentleman as is, it would be undercutting us and it would be undercutting the actual price because now the car is worth more with the type of system that it had. I'm not going to mention what it is or what type of model. I mean, other than it's a Cadillac. It was a Cadillac. We were going to sell it, but it had a good system. So you know what we did? We took out the system and sold him the car. Okay? And he complained about it, but there was nothing that he can really do because the price of the car is based on the stock, not the overall value that it increased with the stereo system. So in this regard, what is Eddie Hearn trying to do? What he's trying to do is not only get the Cadillac, but also the custom stereo system as well. Okay, he wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. And not just him, Turkey El-Sheikh wants to do the same thing. He wants the Cadillac and the stereo system to go along with it. All right, he's not playing around. Eddie Hearn is not playing around. They want what they want for different reasons. Let me reiterate once again the different reasons why they want what they want. Eddie Hearn wants it in England for nostalgia reasons, okay, for patriotism. That's one aspect of it that can be absolutely true. The other aspect of it is the fact that they will get paid more because of the gate revenue that they're going to have in these stadium fights. So that's what's in it for Eddie Hearn. What's in it for the Saudis and doing it in America? It's really this simple. More Americans are going to watch this on primetime Saturday night than they would on Saturday morning. Because I always say that if you wanted to catch British boxing in the United States, in particular in the West Coast, if you wanted to watch British boxing in the West Coast on Saturdays, it was Saturday mornings. Because whenever it's Saturday morning here, it's nighttime in England. Prime time, 8 o'clock, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, where the majority of main event fights, usually end up at on Saturday nights. So that's what they want. They want more audience. And here's the thing with Americans, right? When it comes to fighting sports, maybe not every American or not a lot of Americans will want to turn up for fight events because the British, they love to turn up to fight events, right? Not saying that Americans don't, but they would rather watch it live. They're just a culture that would rather watch it live than watch it there. I think America, it's a complete opposite by terms of numbers and metrics that you can measure through ratings, right? More Americans would rather want to stay home and watch the fight, especially at a reasonable time where they are home for a Saturday night. And that is the thought process that Turkey El-Sheikh has going on. That is what they are trying to do. They are trying to garner as much eyes as they can as possible. And here's the thing, what's crazy about it? They know that Americans are going to watch it, but they also know the British are going to stay up at 4 or 5 in the morning to watch the main event of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. They know. They know there's going to be a good portion of people that are going to be up for that time. But they also know more Americans are going to turn up, which, by the way, equals what exactly? It equals more commercial revenue. It equals more advertisements. Okay, because obviously this is not the pay-per-view era anymore, or I don't know, maybe this is a pay-per-view. And if it is a pay-per-view, you better believe there's Americans that are going to be paying $80 for that, because think about this, right? They're no longer paying $80 for every UFC event. So here's one time a Zuffa production where you are going to cough up money because you don't want to miss it. Who do you think wins that one? You know what, Marty? That's a very good question. That is a 50-50 fight. He says, I'm going to go with Joshua. Even after the Prenga performance, you think that he wins? Let me hear what you have to say in this one to justify your pick. Victory says he's been pretty active. Very true. Tyson has been probably being lazy and drinking again. Very true. A classic case of hard work beating talent, right? Now, there is no doubt Tyson Fury is the much more talented fighter on paper. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, on paper, Anthony Joshua is obviously talented. He is the Olympian. Tyson Fury never really went to the Olympics. He just jumped straight into the pros. But that's also indicative of why he got the heavyweight title a lot faster than Anthony Joshua did. Even though Anthony Joshua, through modern standards, and even old school standards, relatively got the heavyweight title quickly. Victory says, yeah, I'd say Tyson is more talented with a more unique style. So the problem with that is you have to hone that. You have to cultivate that. And I don't think Tyson Fury has done that over the years, unfortunately. He hasn't cultivated his style. He hasn't really implemented any new trainers. Like, look at what Anthony Joshua is doing. All right? Look at what he's doing. He's training with the guy that beat him. You know who this reminds me of? George St. Pierre. Is it fair to say that Anthony Joshua reminds you of George St. Pierre? Let me know if you guys agree with that. The comparison of Anthony Joshua and George St. Pierre, I see the parallels. All right? For example, George St. Pierre is highly competitive, right? Very, very competitive. The only difference is that we never really see the ugly side of his competitiveness because of the way that he, had lost, the way that Anthony Joshua lost, right? We didn't have that equivalence with GSP. GSP dominated everybody and beat everybody that was in front of him. Victory says, like I said, I'm sure he's been chasing women and partying for a while now. Who's that? I don't know. I mean, chasing women, that doesn't seem like a Tyson Fury characteristics, considering Tyson Fury kind of markets himself as the family man, right? Anthony Joshua, on the other hand. So here's the interesting thing about Anthony Joshua that's going to blow everyone's mind, right? I need everybody to hit the like button right now. I'm going to blow everyone's mind with Anthony Joshua and some of the things that he's hiding behind the scenes. Hit the like button for me right now if you want to hear this. He says he might market himself that way, but come on. I think so, right? And also in the gypsy culture, there's an honor system in the gypsy culture, right, where it would be shameful for Tyson Fury to behave a certain way. I know that certain women, that if they behave in a certain way in the gypsy community, they would be ousted or somehow condemned, right, through the courts of the village. And when I mean the courts of through the village, it's not really like a real legitimate court of any lawful authority of any kind, right? But rather just the shame that their community would cast upon you, right? So the gypsies, yes, that is ultimately what they are about in that regard. So okay, give me the like button right now. I'm going to tell you. Give me one more like button. I'm going to give you a shocking um, secret about Anthony Joshua that not many people know about, or maybe some people know about it, but his PR team does a very good job of hiding it. Give me one more like. I need one more like, and I'm going to get to that story. Victory says I've seen him hit on women interviewing him. You can tell he's just one. Okay, I gotcha. Victory says plus he's admitted that he's an addict. Having one particular vice doesn't mean that you necessarily lead yourself to another form of vice, but I see what you're saying, right? Weak minds, create weak minds, and that's really what it is. He says, my Theofimo pick hit by the way. I'm winning here. All right, man. Congratulations to that. Although I don't condone gambling in any way. If you feel that that is a good win for you, alhamdulillah, brother. Skate Beagle says 4 million likes. Okay. All right. Um so all right, I'll tell you what I need to tell you about Anthony Joshua right now, right? Anthony Joshua is a closet Muslim. Did anyone hear what I just said? I said Anthony Joshua is a closet Muslim. He's Muslim behind the scenes. He doesn't want to tell anyone. He knows and understands that the UK has a very discriminatory leaning towards Muslims for various reasons, right? It could just be generational racism that many of the English and the Irish and the Welsh and the Scottish people have grown under. It could just be the fact that um, there have been a lot of terrorist attacks over the years, and the sentiments towards Muslims may hit them a little bit harder than, let's say, Americans who, for the most part, right, many of us here live in properties that are very much divided or segregated away from other people, especially if you live in the countryside. Even if you live in the suburbs, there's still a certain space. Whereas in the UK, everything is just wall to wall. The ceilings are very close towards each other, right? Very much like the council estate projects type of feeling, right? So they're very close to each other, right? That's the kind of society that you have over there, right? So their attitudes on things are going to be a little bit different. Um, as opposed to, let's say, Americans, right? So being that they're close, obviously they're also very close to the Middle East. So it's no wonder they're going to suffer most of, let's say, the immigration issues that plagues the world today, right? It's really just simple as, you know what, the Western countries wage war against these Middle Eastern countries only for these people, these innocent civilians in these Middle Eastern countries, to seek refuge in other places in the world. And then a lot of these bigoted right wing borders, language, culture people, are pretty much upset that these people have to go look for refuge for something that their government has done. Scandabingo says, you guys picked Raleigh. I won the glory and supremacy over you. I don't gamble. I mean, listen, man. Like I said, I told you my stance on predictions. I'm not big on being a prediction channel. I will do predictions. Like, for example, you know what? I don't mind doing some predictions on UFC Shanghai this coming weekend. We'll probably do that within the next hour or so. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. Like maybe an hour number two, we'll dedicate it to UFC Shanghai and and whatnot, and we can go from there. Asa says, but why isn't Allah on their side? They would never lose a war. Who are you referring to in that regard, Asa? Yeah, please elaborate for me a little bit if you can, please.
Everyone knows that. Is there anybody who thinks it will be the same or better staging it in New York over Wembley. Come on. Like,
Eddie Hearn is right, though, right? Staging it in Wembley versus staging it in New York. Come on. Wembley all day. Give me Wembley all day. But there's people involved. There are people whose stakes are involved in all of this. So, yeah, man. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
it'll still be great, but it just won't be the same. And I hope that people at Netflix just go, do you know what, actually? Like, when you talk about coverage and the moment, you think that's what Netflix are all about with live sport.
So here's the thing, right? It's not an impossibility if this fight could be in England, but guess what? They're going to make you British people stay up late, okay? This is why Turkey El-Sheikh was speaking to the mayor of London, Mayor Khan. He was saying to Mayor Khan, hey, you know what I want to do? I want to increase the curfew because there's a curfew. So they're going to have curfews on the bars. They're going to extend it to like maybe 6 in the morning, right? So everybody can, drink and party. It's what the British do. They're notorious drunks, right? So that is what some of the talks have been behind the scenes because Eddie is right. Okay, it will feel out of place putting it in New York. And on top of that, I just don't think Americans are going to appreciate it the way that the UK is going to appreciate, that particular fight. It's just what it is, guys. They're not going to appreciate it the way the UK does. So the solution and the neutral negotiation to take here is, all right, you know what? We'll take the early morning fight just so it can be prime time in America. Because the main thing they want is an American audience to watch it in their prime time television. That is the main goal. So one has to give. And I tell you what, if they're going to do that fight very early in the morning, one of those two guys, or maybe even some of the guys in the undercard that they're going to put there, they're going to complain about the time. I mean, look at what happened with the Leon Edwards and the Bilal Muhammad fight in Manchester. They made that fight for the United States, okay? And they gave, honestly, Bilal Muhammad the advantage because he was working on American time. While Bilal Muhammad was working on American time, Leon Edwards was working on local Manchester, UK time, which, by the way, the fight took place very early in the morning. So let's say Anthony Joshua wins. Okay. Well, Tyson Fury is going to blame it on that. Let's say Anthony Joshua wins. There's a great chance that he'll blame it on that as well. So these are very important things to you really think about when it comes to this fight. Just something to think about.
Moment. The moment at MSG is not the moment. The moment is when the whole country stops for this moment. The two of the biggest boxing icons that we'll ever see facing off at our national stadium in front of 100,000 people. Our country will stop for that. Every newspaper will be front and back page.
No cars on the road.
Exactly.
Like in England,
Exactly. And that, I'm saying Netflix are about the moment. Turkey El-Sheikh is about the moment.
He's right.
I started that business.
He's absolutely right. Turkey El-Sheikh is about the moment. This is a man who staged the fight in New York Times Square, okay, which by the way was very controversial. I mean, think about it. A Saudi man putting money up for a fight in New York City, okay, with already the accusations of Saudi Arabia being involved with Al-Qaeda and and rogue elements of the GIP. By the way, for those of you that don't know what the GIP is, they are Saudi intelligence, right? It stands for General Intelligence Presidency. Right. So GIP, that is the CIA version of the Saudi of the CIA. So they are basically Saudi CIA, right? They were the ones accused of being part of the plot of 9/11, right? Or at least orchestrating it or helping these guys in some kind of way, but who knows? Scanabigo says UK should change their time to Arab time. They're conquered. I mean, you're right. They are. Think about it, right? The majority of the people that own properties in London, okay, are non-white British people, mostly Indians. But on the second place to that are rich Arabs from the Gulf. Gulf Arabs from Oman, Gulf Arabs from Kuwait, Qatar. They all have houses in London. Each and every single one of them, right? And my father, when he was alive, he was very well. Let's just say that he knew a lot of people in the Arab diplomatic world, right? And many of them, at some point, uh, uh, rendezvoused with each other in London, right? Many things go on in London for the Arabs, right? In particular, the Saudis and the Emiratis. So, all right, back to Eddie Hearn, what he's talking about.
I'm saying Netflix are about the moment. Turkey Shake is about the moment.
Hey, Juice Man, what up, cuz? There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Turkey Shake loves looking.
Yeah, you actually can't get me in trouble for that one. That's family right there. What's up, Juice Man? Shout out to you, my boy. Yeah, West Side.
Round at these things going, we did it. Yeah, we did it. There will be no
F you, never mind.
we did it feeling to deliver this at Wembley. That's all I was like. Make it away Tyson's going on about it. But he don't care, he just wants the money. And I get it. Like, by the way, you don't have to care.
Hey, shout out to Juice Man. Only us Cali guys understand. I mean, maybe some people out there, understand what we're talking about, but yeah, only us Cali guys can really joke with each other about stuff like that.
But we care. So I'm not criticizing these people who don't care where the fight is. That's up to them. But we care. And that's just how it is. Dana White's part of this, or could be. Well, Dana White's been a big part of the problem. I think that if Dana White.
There you go.
So arrogant in this whole process.
There you go. Dana White has been the big part of this problem. Let's hear why he says that Dana White is a big part of this problem. What does he mean by that?
Maybe it actually would have got done. But the thing is, Nick Khan called me and he was quite pleasant. He was like, look, mate, could we work together on this? It would be really big for the fight. And I said, if Dana White was...
All right, so they're talking about wanting to work with each other. So this is my prediction that comes with this, right? This is my prediction. My prediction is that they're going to have the fight in the UK because ultimately that's what everybody wants, even Americans, right? But because they want Americans to watch the fight, but Americans would watch the fight if it was prime time, their time. They're going to do the Bilal Muhammad, Leon Edwards event routine. What did they do in UFC? What was that? 315, I believe, or I'm not sure, but anybody know Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, what UFC number that was? But I believe it was 315. Nonetheless, during that, no, that was the JDM fight, actually. What UFC number was that? It's not important. The point of the matter was they did it morning time UK so that they can have American fans stay up late to watch that in person to watch that watch that right around prime time their time. Juice Man says Dana don't want the smoke with Eddie Hearn. I mean, Eddie Hearn is the one that trains. He trains with these other boxers. Dana White back in the days has trained with boxers though. Okay, he has actually trained boxing in a way where he was actually getting ready to go and fight Tito Ortiz, right? Him and Tito Ortiz had beef for a small, brief period of time, and he decided he was going to get in there with him. Scandavigo says Syria's name has been removed from the list of state-sponsored terrorism. Okay, all they had to do was elect an actual terrorist as president. Funny how the world works. Okay, so let me explain what that is, right? So I'm glad you brought that up. At least we can get into some political topics, right? The United States only does business with people that they're scared of or people that they know can absolutely hurt them, okay? The United Kingdom can hurt the United States, even though the United States has broke independence from the United Kingdom from 1776, but militarily they have the capabilities. I'm not saying that America wins in every exchange or loses in every exchange or one or the other, but anything can happen in a war, right? America knows that these Syrian rebels are formidable fighters, okay? You only make peace with the people that have enough strength to really destroy you. at some point, America had to give up to the Taliban because the Taliban was too strong. They knew the land. They had the strategic position mounted up in the mountains, whereas the U.S. troops were using their Humvees that sometimes had a hard time getting uphill, which created more strategic problems for U.S. troops and ultimately left that part of the world humiliated and defeated, just like in Vietnam. Okay, so yes, you can call him a terrorist, but here's the thing: Mohammed al-Shara was called a terrorist at a time when his group, whether you would call that Al-Qaeda, HTS, or the Free Syrian Army, or whatever group they were, at some point they were called Al-Nusra, whatever they were, whatever label they are being presented as, they are a formidable fighting force. At least they figured that out years later. They didn't know that in 2012. When the Syrian war kicked off, they had no idea that that was the case. They had no idea that these guys were a formidable fighting force. The minute they find out you're a formidable fighting force, okay, any country in the world, any intelligence agency in the world, they're going to do a couple of things, right? They're going to assess the danger that is involved, right? They're going to assess whether they can do anything with these people, whether they have these strategic means of annihilating these people, or what is the cost that comes with this, and are we okay with that? So going back to Trump, you notice how Trump is very much flattering towards Mohammed al-Shara. You want to know why? Trump loves winners. He doesn't love losers. He told you this. This is why he said, I like the guys that don't get captured. And that is in reference to John McCain. John McCain was a war veteran, right? Decorated military career, some would say. But Donald Trump absolutely devalued him by saying, you know what? You got captured. I like the guys that didn't get captured. This is Trump. He likes guys that are winners. North Korea is probably a stronger military than South Korea. You want to know why? Even though they leave a lot of people in North Korea as destitutes, the North Korean soldiers live a lot harder and have well, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're, I don't know. Maybe it's just propaganda. They say that they're malnourished. I don't know either way. I'm not definitively sure either way. But it is strange that Trump is siding towards Kim Jong-il, the North Korean guy, right? When the U.S. is known to be allies with South Korea. And by the way, canceled all the military training sessions, the joint training sessions that the American military and the South Korean military had going on. Scandabigo says that's not a soldier, that's an animal. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about Mohammed al-Shara? Whatever Mohammed al-Shara is, okay, the United States feels the need to negotiate with him because of the strength that he displays. That's the God honest truth. All right? And as for Mohammed al-Shara, he knows that he has to be responsible for a country, a nation, and as a result of that, he knows that the diplomatic thing to do in terms of preventing his country from being, a bomb, a bomb target, okay, is basically make peace with everybody else around the world. That's just what he has to do. He has to prevent himself from being another Gaddafi. He has to prevent himself from being another Saddam Hussein. What he wants to do is be a key player in the Middle East, okay, even with his staunch terrorist past that you say, which by the way is it's not inaccurate, right? It's scarily accurate what you're talking about, his past. But for whatever reason, the United States believes that he wants to change, that he wants to create, and you know what? There's a part of me that sort of believes him, right? Because yes, he is a bloodlust jihadist in the way that you depict him to be. This is true. But I think there's also another side to jihadism that also curtails towards a state building. All right. And by the way, the Muslim Brotherhood and many of their doctrines and many of their many of their transcripts over the years have mentioned this, right? They have mentioned trying to get into mainstream politics, right? This is the reason why you see many people who have left-wing Muslim backgrounds, sort of push, Muslim Brotherhood agendas. CARE, the organization CARE, is a Muslim Brotherhood organization. Not many people know that or understand that, but yes, they are. They are a Muslim Brotherhood organization, and one of their goals is to maintain a foothold in mainstream politics in some kind of way. And this is just another foothold for them to do exactly that. So, I hope that answers that question. Scandavigo says Trump is butthurt that zero allies assisted him in his illegal war. World leaders are laughing at him. Yes, yes. There is that. Yes. The Muslim Brotherhood has been banned by the Argentinian president. The Egyptian president as well. Egypt's government has banned them as well. Egypt was ran by the Muslim Brotherhood under Mohammed Morsi, if you guys remember, right? So Mohammed Morsi was the president of Egypt. By the way, he was a known Muslim Brotherhood lawyer. He was also a former, get this, a former professor at USC University. Let me confirm to make sure what university Mohammed Morsi. What university did Mohammed Morsi teach at? He did teach as a professor in. He says, "What's up, my dog? How are you today, my Twizzy? What's up from Russia, homie? Hey, shout out to Russia, man. All right, man. We got some people in the chat from Russia right now. What part of Russia are you in, my brother? Let me know. So let me see here. I'm trying to find out what. Okay. Wow. Okay. So it is USC. Okay. University of Southern California. Wow. Okay. So he was a professor at USC, California. Yo, love you, bro. Thank you, my man. Thank you, Jay Gestures. Appreciate that, my man. Hit the like button. And if you haven't, hit the subscribe button if you can, please. That would be greatly appreciated. So, yeah, Mohammed Morsi was from the Muslim Brotherhood, yes, and he did teach in USC. So just to kind of give you guys a little bit of some history lesson in there. Twinkle, twinkle, hey, Wheezy. Okay, Scandavigo says. All right, so let me see here. Let's transition into UFC China now. Let's see here. 100, okay, 74 minutes to hours. What is that? Okay. So 1 hour and 14 minutes. Okay, that's what we'll do. We'll put up the details on this one. We'll go 115. Okay, 1 hour and 15 minutes. UFC Shanghai. Okay, so we'll go full card with UFC Shanghai. Mark Haney, shout out to you, my man. You missed it. We had the fun part of the stream. Now we're on to the serious MMA part of the stream. Shout out to Mark, man. He says, "What's up, fools?" The legendary Mark Haney. Hey, Mark Haney. I was hanging out with your homies at Miller Park. At the lowrider lane, and when I mean homies, I don't necessarily have to mean guys that personally, or I don't know, maybe you might know some of them, but they're serious sack dudes, and they're they're part of your clique, right? But here on this chat, we got the ADD gang. You know what I mean? And that right there is a joint task. That's a joint task force gang right there that we got going on. So shout out to Mark Haney on that one. So we got UFC Shanghai coming up. We're going to talk about it. Man, yeah, it's going to be a 3 a.m. card, right? So remember what I said earlier about how a lot of the UK has to stay up late to watch these fights. If you're watching an Asian card from an American time frame, that's exactly what you're going to do. So Jester says, do you know the mafia boss who was assassinated in Israel, the Caucasian mafia? No, I didn't know that. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, tell me more about that. But on any regard, aside from all the mafia hits and all the Tupac scandals going on, we have UFC China coming up this weekend. All right, so let's take a look at the full card lineup for UFC Shanghai, to be exact, right? So this is going to be in UFC Shanghai. So the first fight of the evening is going to be Ming Ding versus Cam Wilson. So let's take a look at where Cam Wilson has been in his career. So right now, Cam Wilson, he's 7-1 Canadian. Is this his UFC debut from Niagara Top Team, right? So he trains in Niagara Falls in the Canadian side of it. Okay, this is his UFC debut. Okay. UFC debut in China, man. That is not an easy task ahead, right? Mark Haney says, Victory, what's up, my dude? All right, so take a look at this guy right here, right? 45 career fights. Okay, a lot of them were in China, though. Does he have any UFC fights out of those 45 fights? No, he has one UFC loss, and that was against Jose Souza, split decision. I would consider this one probably a split decision fight as well. I'm going to go with this guy, his experience, right? Depending on whatever experience he had in the level of competition, I think he edges out the decision on this one. So I'm going with Meng Ding in the first fight of the evening. Okay, so second fight of the evening right here, Jian Zhang versus Julia Palestri. Let's take a look at where Julia Palestri has been in her career. He says the names on this card are going to be wild. I know, man. I know. So Julia Palestri right here, 14-6, 20 fights in her career. All right, let's take a look at some UFC experience that we have going on here. Let's see. 5 fights in the UFC, 2 wins, 3 losses. So a little bit of a 50-50 record. Coming off of a loss against El-Kheer. Actually has a win over Carolina, the former title challenger. Now let's take a look at where Jiang Zhang has been. 19-3. Very impressive record. I might have to go with this one, right? Looks like a very powerful Chinese fighter named Panda for a reason. Fighting out of Bali, Indonesia. All right, shout out to my Indonesians. Obviously a Muslim country at that, has good boxing skills. Let's see, 1 UFC loss so far, and that was against Angela Hill. No shame in that, right? They gave her a chance to come back to this card. He says, dang, all the little guys and 1 lightweight fight. I know. Well, hey, listen, in Asia, that's what they market in Asia, right? Is little man fights. I'm going to go with this one by knockout. I could see and feel that she could come out with a knockout on this one. I'm going to go with her by knockout. So going back to the card. Lawrence Liu versus Santiago. Where's Lawrence Liu have been? So this is a Chinese Australian fighter, 8-1. Okay, so very interesting. Fighting out of City Kickboxing. So they got some Chinese Australians in that one. He says, I don't know anyone besides the main event. Well, guess what, man? That's why we're going to learn all these cards and learn to be hardcore fans like MMA Guru, right? Road to UFC has 3 wins on Road to UFC. Has a win in the Volkanovski-Lopez fight. Now let's take a look at Hector Santiago, his opponent. Scandabigo says Jordan Burroughs wants Islam, GSP, Kamzat, etc. in RAF. They'll probably say no to it. What is this? Does this guy have a kickboxing background? Looks like a kickboxing fight right here. Okay, fighting out of Central America. 1 fight out of the LFA. Okay, has lost in karate combat. All right, very interesting. Has lost in thunder fights. Okay, Money Moicano. He fought in a Money Moicano. I'm going to go with Lawrence Liu. Okay, City Kickboxing, I trust them. I think that he edges out a decision. He says the Omar fights is not canceled. I know. I don't know who said that rumor, but very horrible on them to say that. Shame on you, whoever said that. I think it was Scandabigo. I think it was you, bro, that said that. So shame on you. Okay. Jack Jenkins versus Sean Woodson. This is going to be interesting. Jack Jenkins, 14-4, coming out of absolute mixed martial arts, 4-2 in his UFC right now, UFC career, coming off of a decision against Ramon Tavares. Got choked by Gabriel Santos, now taking on Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson, 13-2. By the way, a very tall featherweight. Okay, very tall featherweight, 6'2", very tall, lanky, 7-2 in his UFC fights. Just got knocked out recently by Dan Ige, trying to make a comeback here. Had a knockout against Fernando Padilla. Won a unanimous decision against Alex Caceres. Has a split decision over Charles Jourdain. I think I'm going to go with Jack Jenkins by unanimous decision. I think the unanimous decision he took in that last fight, he's going to carry that momentum over to this one. So, yeah, or I don't know, man. I can see Sean Woodson finishing him using the height and strength. So I'll go with him on that one. That's some idiot, not me, that's for sure. Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, somebody did say that fight was canceled. I thought it was you. So, forgive me if that wasn't you, obviously. All right, moving on to the card. Let's see here. Okay, Jack Jenkins and okay, Long Zhao versus Nuzai, 135 fight. Now, Francisco Nuzai, 12-2, Italian kid, fighting out of Aurora Mixed Martial Arts. 1-1 in PFL. Okay, so this is his UFC debut. Now, what about Long Zhao? Long Zhao is a veteran, 27 fights, 11 losses, 27 wins, 11 losses. So that's about over 40 fights in his career. 1-2 in his UFC career. Lost to Cody Garbrandt. I remember that fight. Made a good account of himself, though. I'm going to go with Francis Nunzio on this one by unanimous decision. I think he takes it by unanimous decision. Judging by the fact that he is coming off of a no contest at Cage Warriors. He's got a lot to prove in this one. Prior to that, he's a killer, be-killed fighter. Got a knockout. Prior to that, got choked. And then prior to that, got a guillotine. Yeah, he is a finisher. He's going to look for a finish in this one. I'll go with this guy, Francis Nunzio, in first round submission. A little bold prediction there, but I feel he'll get a submission win on this guy. Let's see here. What else here? Okay, so Rai Tatsura versus Kevin Borjas. Okay, let's take a look at where Kevin Borjas has been in his career. 11-5 right now, coming off of a win against Andre Lima. Prior to that, has a loss against Rodriguez. Let's take a look at where his opponent, Rai Tatsura, has been. He says, I would like to conquer a country, but they put on a fight cards every weekend. Okay, a bit of sarcasm there on your part. Okay, Black Belt Japan, where he trains out of 11-1, 2-1 in the UFC, undefeated in Pancreas, undefeated in Road to UFC. An organization deep, he was undefeated in that 3-3 in those. Got a rear naked choke in his last fight. Unanimous decision, loss against Joshua Van. I'm taking this guy by unanimous decision. I think anybody that goes the distance with Joshua Van is a very formidable fighter. I think I think he'll beat Kevin Borjas by decision in this one. All right. So moving on. Andre Lima taking on N. Batiabar. Okay. Numsrai 10-1. Yeah, this dude is a tank right here. 5'6", flyweight division. Coming off of a win, another first round. Yeah, he's gonna finish Andre Lima. Where's Andre Lima been in his career right here? 11-1, 4-1 in the UFC. This is gonna be a pretty interesting fight. Okay, so has a loss coming off of Kevin Borjas. I predict a first round knockout. That's going to be my bold prediction on this one. He's going to get a first-round knockout on Andre Lima. Andre Lima is going to come in here thinking it's sweet. This guy goes for the finish every time, and I think that he gets it by hook knockout. Bilal Hassan versus Nilson Rojas. Where has Nilson Rojas been in his career? 9-0 is Nilson Rojas. Okay, undefeated. Fought in the FFC, coming off of a unanimous decision. Now, what about Bilal Hassan? 9-0 as well. Okay, Indonesian fighter. Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna have a bias pick on this one. I'm going with the Indonesian guy. Undefeated Indonesian guy versus undefeated Mexican guy. I'm gonna go with my heart on this one and go with the Indonesian guy. Obviously, he's the Muslim fighter between the two, right? But you never know, right? But and they're both UFC debutants. I'll go with the I'll take my chances with the Muslim guy from Indonesia. El Rodriguez Jr. versus Liu. 15-1. Baby Monster. Okay, light heavyweight division. Okay, he's got fought out of Inside Muay Thai. Scandinavigo says Thomas Sowell, more white people were brought as slaves in North Americans and blacks brought as slaves to the United States. Yes, very interesting. Very interesting point there you made. Okay. Coming off of a loss from Felipe Franco. Now let's take a look at C. Liu. Where has he been? I think I'm going to go with this guy. Look at this dude. He looks like a destroyer. 3-1. It's all these, and his name is the Oriental Dragon. All right. I think I'm going to go with this guy. First round knockout. This guy is a finisher. He's going to get a knockout in this one. I'm going with Liu. First round knockout. Continuing on. Let's see here. Okay, Alex Perez versus Sumadarji. So 26-10. Alex Perez, the veteran. We definitely know who these guys are. So again, these are well-known guys, but these are well-known guys in the smaller weight divisions. 8-6 in the UFC right now. No contest against Sumadarji back in. So okay, they're rematching this one. I'm going to go with Sumadarji on this one. I think that, being a team alpha male fighter, he's going to know how to adjust in the rematch second time around. So I'm going to go with him by decision. All right. So moving on to the cards. So let's see here. Okay, Kai Asakara. Obviously coming off of that loss, 22-6. That loss from Pantoja. Okay, has a win over Cameron Simon. Lost to Pantoja Tim Elliott. No shame in that. Now taking on this guy. If this guy wins, El-Kheer, I mean, he'll definitely get up there, the Mongolian guy here. So 4-5 in his UFC. Has a loss over Cody Day. Yeah, I'll go with Kaya Sakara by decision. Yeah, Kaya Sakara by decision on this one. All right. So in the co-main event of the evening, Jan versus Denise Gomez. Where has Denise Gomez been in her career? 12-3. 6-2 in the UFC. Very good record. All right. Has a win over Eduarda Mora, Carolina, the former champion, Elise Reed, Teshia Pennington. Now, Jean. Where has Jean been in her career? So this is a very scary fighter, right? Serious knockout power. Also a team alpha male fighter. 9-4 in the UFC, coming off of a loss against Vindra. A little bit of some, out wrestling there. Weili Zhang goes to a decision against Weili Zhang. I'm going with her. I think she's going to get a knockout in the second round. We'll go with second round knockout on this one. And the main event of the evening, obviously, Omar Nurmagomedov and Song Yadong. So let's go to the main event of the evening, right? I'm going to actually mark this down right here. So let's see, what is 90 minutes? 90 minutes from now, I believe that's 1:30. So, okay, 1:30 will okay, main event. Main event predictions. That's what we'll go with right there. Okay, main event predictions for UFC Shanghai. Okay, wait, Omar versus Song. Boom, there we go. All right, so let's get to it. Right, the main event of the evening: Omar versus Song Yadong. Now, I'm very familiar with both of your teams, right? Obviously, here in Sacramento, this is where Song Yadong trains at. Omar Nurmagomedov trains with Team Khabib. They also train out here in San Jose if they're not training in Dagestan, right? The game changer to this fight is wrestling. I don't think Song Yadong has enough wrestling to really compete with Omar Nurmagomedov at all, right? The striking, Omar Nurmagomedov can also deal with the striking as well as the grappling. And the grappling, he's going to hold on to him for 5 rounds. I'm going to predict a 5 round decision on the part of Omar Nurmagomedov. That's what he's going to do. He's going to hold him down. He's going to outstrike him when he can, right? Song Yadong's going to be very difficult to finish, okay? Very, very difficult to finish. Hands down, it's going to be a very difficult finish for him to put on. But can he do it? No. I don't think either of them can finish each other. I think Omar is too tough. I think Song Yadong is too tough. And both of them finishing each other is going to be a very difficult, very, very difficult time. It's going to be a very difficult time for either of them to finish. Victory says, I like Thomas so well, him and Jesse Lee Peterson. Oh, yeah, yeah, Jesse Lee Peterson. Yeah, yeah, he's pretty cool too. So there it is, guys. What we'll do right now, we'll go on a freestyle round. If there's anything that you guys would like to talk about, I'm going to play some more clips of Eddie Hearn that sort of goes into this topic of of the fight not happening in the UK or happening in the United States and why. Um, Earlier today, I did do coverage for the KPD trial. We also did some UFC talks as well. I sort of just incorporated some of the UFC talks along with that. Here, I got to drop some predictions for the card this coming weekend. Obviously, this is something most people like to do during the week or early in the week. Here it is, early in the week. We got UFC China, as a prediction right here. So we got that going on. So yeah, we'll just freestyle talk about whatever. And speaking of which, since we are going to have a fight card this weekend in China, why not play a game that takes place in China and Hong Kong? It is called what is this game called? Sleeping Dogs, right? It's about a cop that disguises himself as a triad member. So very interesting stuff. By the way, this game takes place in Hong Kong. I figured it was accurate considering that UFC China is taking place in Shanghai this weekend. Not too far from each other. It's literally like a boat ride away from each other. Shanghai and Hong Kong. Everyone seems to be a terrible driver in video games because it kind of gives you like the leeway of being one. Being in a culture without being of it, right? Real, real race whisperer, type of lessons, isn't it? Hmm. Yeah. Okay, let's save this right here. Okay, I'm show you this other one, Battlefield, right here, Hardline. Here we go. This one's a hard game right here. This is hard, and when I mean hard, I mean like hard as in, hard-ish. Says, what game is this? So I just played Sleeping Dog. That's about a game, a cop who goes undercover with the triads, and then this game right here is Battlefield. It's like, um, yeah, it's like Call of Duty, but involving cops and drug dealers. So one of them type of things. He says Sleeping Dog. Uh, but it's in 2012. Correct. Yes. Yep. He says you can stream from your PS5. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't have PS5. Okay. Previously, they're going to show you previously like it's like a TV series of some sort. Okay, now we're on another mission right now. Get that in Miami. Look at this. Welcome to Miami. Come on. Tyson's dropping the cable any minute. Okay, do you want? He said you should play strategic games. It's better for your brain. A lot of these are strategic. You'll see. Okay, that's the elevator. Looks like it. And lots of cigars. They're downstairs. Close quarter combat. Okay, now we got to look for evidence. So you see, there is a strategy to this game, guys. You know, you get into a shootout, you know, that spikes your adrenaline. And then on top of that, you got to look for evidence. Where is that evidence? There we go. All right. Okay, here we go. Okay, there's evidence one. What is this evidence right here? New case open, preferred outcome. All right.
Nas was beefing up security.
Maybe he was getting ready for us.
Okay, what else here? Okay. Potentially new evidence. Okay, maybe the license plate? No? Where is that supposed to be? Could it be where this is at? Okay, I suppose there's really nothing else to it.
Security stations in the lobby. There's gotta be a clue here.
Nick, what about your scanner? Would that help?
Okay, then I can figure out this code.
There we go. Yeah.
Hi, elevator's unlocked.
of darts for the 4th of July.
Think Dawes knows we're coming?
Maybe.
All right. Then we go to 20.
Hit him from above.
So tell me, what'd you do for 4th of July when you were a kid?
You know, put food sauce on hot dogs. Stuff explode. Tyson, we're on 20.
Welcome to Preferred Outcomes. Outside a corner office. Looks like it's under construction. We're on our way. What's your feeling so?
What about like preferred outcomes? Maybe.
Preferred Outcomes is made with four-minded Dawson's.
See, you can't say this isn't a strategic game.
Dog. What now? Tyson said he was in the corner office, right?
Fuck it.
Here, have you lunch. Hey, you know I'm actually in the office place in about 8 days. Hey, you sure you found the right pipe? I'm sure. I think you two are nuts. Let's get upstairs.
That was the call.
Dog relies on that private elevator to keep his penthouse safe.
Umar did say it wasn't happening.
Good thing we're not hacking it. All clear. You two Aquanauts can blow the charges anytime. 10-4.
Here it is. That still has his wife in that.
Put your mask on. Hey, if you want that money, I have to push the button. Back in LA, you told me to trust you, and I did.
Look where that got you. So relax, Ty. It's gonna work.
I had no idea if this was gonna work.
I guess it is my turn to trust you.
Oh, damn.
You good?
Yeah. We better miss Tyson. Let's hurry. Someone's about to call 911 about things.
Doubt it. God wouldn't want any cops around here. I'll find something to open the doors. Anytime.
Touch screen opens the door. That computer might be worth a look.
Dawes is catching out.
crashing out or feeling.
Dallas's wife was very sick.
Yeah, cancer. Dallas wasn't the same after that.
What am I supposed to do? Very confusing. Where am I supposed to I don't get what I'm supposed to do here. Yeah, I don't get. Is this Spec Ops? No, this is he said still on the game, man. You should play StarCraft more action. Well, one guy says, yeah, you should play this as more action. The other guy is saying do the strategy game. So, I picked the strategy game, I suppose. Oh, okay. That's how you open it. He said, I haven't played video games for probably 10 years. I recently thought about getting a gaming system. Okay. And Bigo says it's haram.
Well, it's got to be here somewhere.
PC keyboard, mouse, and small screen. PC is way. Okay, you're trying to say it's way better. Got it. Where is this thing that they're looking for? Where have I not gone to this in the part of this house yet? This guy's standing around here while I'm looking for this thing. What am I looking for here? Oh my God. Come on, are you gonna help me, bro? What the fuck? Oh, okay. There it is.
Oh, hello. Something tells me dogs run a lot of comic books as a kid. All right, here goes. That should do it. Okay, Brute, do your thing. Am I gonna keep an eye on it? It's not like it needs encouragement. Guys, I got bad news. Let me guess. Company. How many? Yeah? All right, they're coming. Get ready. We need to slow these guys down. They're here. How much longer for the Brute? Oh shit, they cut the power. If not, check the weapons locker at Johnson's office. Someone's here, calling.
Oh man.
How much longer for the fruit? I don't know. Maybe it'll eat when it's done. You know, like a microwave. Oh shit! They cut the power. If not, check the weapons locker at Johnson's office. Targets are out. I want flex on both sides. Charlie Swan, take the office. Holy shit, the vault's unlocked. Can we clean this with a towel?
Oh my god. No way, dude.
Hi.
What? I saved him. Wait, stupid baby. Right here. We gotta get him out of here.
He pulled the money. Get him to the wire.
This way.
Dodge knew we were coming. You didn't get me. You are interested.
We gotta get out of here. Come on, Miss. We're just gonna catch you, all right?
Umar, Ashley's coming down. I'm on. You're right behind you. Hurry! Go, go!
Oh wow, look at this. Woo! Hey, shout outs to Argentino, man. Thanks for the super chat, my boy. Thank you, my man. All right, let's get this thing cracking, boy.
Bring my son. I'll try. Well, up high. We're gonna go see Dawes.
How do you know where he is?
He told me.
All right. All right. back. Back at it. Back at it again. All right. So let's get back to some of the conversations going on here. Hold on a second here. All right. So I guess we'll exit that one, and then that's going to be the final episode. They have like episodes of like 9, 10, and stuff like that. Okay, let's get to these interesting questions right here. Okay, Porsche, that's racist. Okay, I see why you said this was be a good conversation for the race whisperer, as you said. Um, Okay, Porsche, that's racist. Victory says, I am racist. You're far from racist, but okay. Scandabigo says, good. Aaron Maga says, do you agree John Jones is still the GOAT? Yes. Kyrie is in his zone. I was. Yes, finally got that one in. Victory says, would you agree racism exists for a reason? Um, yeah, it exists for a lot to test mankind, right? Racism is wrong in all levels. And yeah, as Muslims, we believe this is obviously very haram. But yeah, Aaron Maga says everything exists for a reason. The real question is, what's the reason? There it is. I just answered it for you. Life is a test, and Allah is testing you if you will fail or not. Benji says mobile game. No, not a mobile game. It's a hardline battlefield. It's basically a war game, but dealing with cops and criminals. Victory says, well, a lot of racism is justified not when it's based solely on skin color, but behavior and morals. Well, okay, you know what? Then at that point, it's not necessarily race, is it, that you're sort of criticizing, right? At that point, what you're criticizing is the act, the moral of the person, their individual attributes, as opposed to what group they belong to. Victory says, yeah, this would be a great topic for the race whisperer, but he's locked in. Well, there it is. Aaron Maga says, as Khabib once said, respect everyone no matter if you don't like the person. I mean, yeah, respect Khabib, right? Eagle kicking him after the fact, but okay. Vigo says, racism is good for safety reasons to protect yourself in tribal days. Your life depended on it. I think I would not classify that as racism. I mean, obviously, there's not a racist act to begin with that. It's more like, thinking, out of true curiosity of things. Scandabigo says, okay, mocking the super chat with a fake number. Ali Khan says, bro, curious if you are on a cut or a stance about bro, what curious if you are on a cut or a stance about diet losing weight. Not saying you have to, but did you cut weight for fights? Yes, I did. I fought as low as 155 and 170. So yeah, I'm like walking around just under 200 nowadays. Victory says, well, it would be race when you consider the stereotypes you can commonly attribute to certain races. A lot of those are learned behavior, right? Not necessarily like, let's say, okay, certain people are prone to having sickle cells, right? Then that could be an explanation of race, or let's say getting skin cancer if you're out in the sun too long. That's an explanation of race. Behavior is more of a social construct behavior of some sort. Aaron Maga says everyone should strive to be like Khabib. I agree. He's a great role model. Ali Khan says Khabib is truly one of one. That's true. And Victory says, yeah, and that's true. And with that in mind, guys, that is all that I have for this one right now. Ali Khan says he's so in tune with religion, his mental and spiritual, it's hard to achieve. You're absolutely right about that. And you know what? This is the reason why Khabib says that eventually he's going to leave MMA, period, not just as a promoter, not just as a fighter, or not just as a coach. He's going to leave overall because he believes that, I mean, by the gist of it all, MMA does have its haram, aspects to it, but training it and being around its culture gym wise, I think is the most positive thing you can do for your life. Vigo says racism is mapped. Certain groups in certain areas are more. I mean, yeah, you know what? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. We would have to point out specific uh aspects, specific conclusions to state one side or the other. But with that in mind, guys, listen, that is all that I have for this one right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's been a really good one. We talked about Tyson Fury. We got some UFC conversations and it got some gaming time in as well, showing you the different games that I like to play on the side when nobody's watching. All right, guys. Later, man. Later, Victory. Shout out to you. Scandavigo says stats from the government. Okay. With that in mind, like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Inshallah.